Okay, so now for part 2 of my top 6 conspiracy theories regarding the assassination of President Kennedy. We know that the Warren Commission and the U.S. government's official narrative here is that Lee Harvey Oswald killed President Kennedy in November of 1963 and that he acted alone, but more than 70% of Americans do not believe in that narrative. Even though there is a lot of ballistic and physical evidence that points to Oswald, most people do believe that there was at least someone else involved and that he was a part of a greater conspiracy. So let's get into the top 3. The number 3 conspiracy theory is that John F. Kennedy was actually accidentally assassinated by one of his own Secret Service men. The scenario goes like this. Lee Harvey Oswald actually is shooting at President Kennedy from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. He actually hits him, the magic bullet theory, all that stuff occurs from Lee Harvey Oswald's gun. Now, a Secret Service agent sees all of this and says, hey, someone is shooting at the president. I gotta get into position. So he pulls his gun out and then accidentally fires his weapon. The bullet that he fires just so happens to blow the president's head off. Oops. Now, if something like this were to occur, there is no way in hell that the American government can admit that one of its own Secret Service men accidentally killed the president. That would make us the laughingstock of the world during a time when we were engaged in an intense competition and Cold War with the Soviet Union. So, because Lee Harvey Oswald was already shooting at the president, they just blamed the whole thing on him and they cover up the Secret Service angle. This could be one of the reasons why when Lee Harvey Oswald was being asked whether or not he killed the president, he said, no, I'm a patsy. That's a very specific term. It basically means you're being duped into something, that you're the fall guy for something, that you're involved, but you're not the only one involved. And that has always led me and many to believe that Oswald was involved, and maybe he did take some of those initial shots, but that there's also a second shooter. And we kind of know there probably was a second shooter because of the Zapruder film, which shows us a bullet coming at Kennedy from a different angle than that overhead shot from the Texas School Book Depository. This is just a really crazy conspiracy theory. I don't know. Honestly, this is one of those ones that, again, if it's true, our government goes from being super evil to just being like super incompetent and having to cover that up. On a scale from 1 to 10, I am going to give this conspiracy theory a 5. I think it's like a 50-50 chance that something like this happened and the government just had to cover it up. And that's the reason why it seems like this really nefarious thing when actually it could have just been a crazy freak accident. So let's keep it moving. The number 2 conspiracy theory regarding Kennedy's assassination is that the Italian-American Mafia killed Kennedy. So what motive did the Mafia have to kill Kennedy? Well, Kennedy's dad, Joseph P. Kennedy, was associated with the Italian Mafia in so many ways. When John F. Kennedy was running for president in 1960, the Mafia found out that one of their own was running for president because 1, Kennedy was a Catholic, and 2, his dad was an associate of theirs. So people in the Mafia began telling all of their associates that they had to get Kennedy elected, mainly because he was going to get Castro out of Cuba. You see, when Fidel Castro took over Cuba in the late 1950s, he kicked all of the casinos out, and many of those casinos were being run by mobsters, the people in the Italian Mafia. So there was a financial incentive in getting Kennedy elected because it was like a big promise that he was going to be able to get Castro out of Cuba. There is some evidence to suggest that the Mafia, particularly in places like Chicago and New York, participated in mass voter fraud in order to get Kennedy elected. Of course, Kennedy beats Nixon by a very narrow margin. In the popular vote, it was only a little over 100,000 votes separating Kennedy and Nixon. So this was one of the closest elections in American history. Kennedy gets elected, and then what happens? Well, Kennedy makes his brother Bobby Kennedy Attorney General, and Bobby Kennedy begins investigating the Italian-American Mafia. Now, this could have been the result of John F. Kennedy finding out that the Mafia helped get him in office and he didn't want that help, so he was trying to distance himself from them, so that's why he investigated them in the first place. But either way, the Mafia was not too happy. Not to mention, Kennedy fails to get Castro out of power in Cuba. And another factor that implicates the Italian-American Mafia in Kennedy's assassination is the fact that Lee Harvey Oswald was killed just 2 days after the Kennedy assassination by Jack Ruby. Now, Jack Ruby was a bar owner in Dallas, Texas. He wasn't Italian, he was actually Jewish. His full name is Jack Rubenstein. But Jack Ruby was allegedly associated with the Chicago outfit, which is of course a part of the Italian-American Mafia. The Mafia could have gotten Jack Ruby to kill Lee Harvey Oswald in order to silence him. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm actually going to give this one like a 7 out of 10. I think that it is very possible that the Mafia did this. However, I don't think it's just like a 100% true thing. That brings us to our number 1 conspiracy theory regarding the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and you've all heard it, so I don't even really have to go into too many details, but the number 1 conspiracy theory is the CIA killed John F. Kennedy. Let me be blunt about this, okay? Because I know the CIA is probably watching this video, and hey, look, guys, I don't 100% believe the CIA killed Kennedy. I think it is extremely likely and extremely possible that they were involved. So what is the motive there? Well, first of all, JFK didn't really get along with the CIA. Obviously, the Bay of Pigs was a major breaking point between those two entities. Kennedy blamed the CIA blamed Kennedy. There was even some rumors that Kennedy was thinking of defunding the CIA or possibly even dismantling it altogether. That combined with the fact that Kennedy was trying to pull America out of Vietnam and collaborate with the Soviet Union on missions to the moon could have just been complete and total breaking points for the CIA, and they may have killed Kennedy in order to preserve their own agency. Also, there is a connection between the CIA and the Italian-American Mafia. E. Howard Hunt, who was a major figure in the CIA at the time that Kennedy was assassinated, did use Mafia members to help run guns to the Cuban refugees who would end up participating in the Bay of Pigs invasion. And this is all documented. This isn't even a conspiracy. Like, we know that happened. So because there's that connection there, it is very possible, like I said earlier, that multiple conspiracies could be true on this list, that the CIA maybe even enlisted the help of the Mafia to take down Kennedy, a common enemy to both of them. So on a scale from 1 to 10, I'm going to rank the CIA theory with an 8. Honestly, I think the Mafia would be more likely, but I do believe it's possible that the CIA and the Mafia acted together in this assassination plot. However, again, I do want to reiterate, I don't think it's an open and shut case that the CIA was involved. I think it's very possible that the CIA was not involved. One of the reasons I believe that is because if the CIA hates Kennedy and thinks that he poses some type of existential threat to their agency, why not just wait for the man to get out of office? His poll numbers weren't looking that great in 63. It's very possible that he could have lost the election in 1964. Why go through all the trouble of killing the president when the president is not going to be president for life? I believe that at that particular time, if the CIA wanted JFK out of office, they just would have done everything they could to make sure he loses the election of 64. At the end of the day, guys, all of these conspiracy theories could just be things that we've tricked ourselves into believing in, and it could really be that Lee Harvey Oswald killed Kennedy, acted alone, and we'll never truly know why he did it. So what do you guys think? Have you heard of any other conspiracy theories regarding JFK that I didn't cover in this video? And which one of these do you think has the highest chance of being true? Or do you actually believe in the Warren Commission and think Lee Harvey Oswald acted on his own? Make sure to comment below and like and subscribe for more history content like this.